Hello, welcome to day 20, and in today's lesson we'll be looking at the while loop. So sometimes you want to keep running a program until the condition is false. So whenever you want something to happen until something isn't true or until something is true, then you can use your while loop. Let's see what we can do with that. So to declare a while loop, let's assume that we want to keep counting until a number is less than or equals to 10. So let's say we want to keep counting 1, 2, 3 up to 10. Now, let's declare our counter variable. So our counter can be 1. Right? Now let's declare the while loop. Just like it sounds, one cool thing about Python is that the syntax is more like English language. So I'm going to say while counter, which is a variable that I will declare, is less than or equals to 10, right? Then do something for me. Remember, we've seen something similar to this. But one thing I want you to know is this counter will keep running until the counter is greater than 10. In other words, we'll keep increasing this counter until it's going to be more than this very 10. Now let's see how that works. Once I enter, you can see that automatically after the column, Python is giving me a step. In other words, it's not starting from the left side completely. This is what we call block of code. So whenever you have a block of code, Python expects you to have 4 spaces. It is very, very important. Otherwise, your code will throw an error. So whenever you have a column here, it means that there should be other instruction embedded under this very line of code. So what we can do is do our print function. So let's print counter. Print the counter. Now, if we run it like this, our code or our program will run infinitely. It won't stop, and as a result, it can freeze our system or freeze whatever operating system is running that program. So for this condition to ever be false, right, we need to keep increasing this counter. In other words, you need to keep adding +1. So that the next time you run is 2, the next time it runs again is 3. And that's what we call increments, right? Loop increments. So for us to do that, we just need to call the counter. Remember, you can always update the value of your variable. So you're just going to do plus equals to 1. Now, this thing that you've just written right now is the same thing as you writing something like this. Counter +1. It's the same thing. So you're just saying whatever value is counter, grab it, then plus it and equals to 1. Okay, so let's stick to what we have. Cool. So let's try to run our code and see what we get. Something I should also point out is that when you open a new page or a new file, always remember that when you run it, it won't be the default on your executor or your compiler. As you can see, this is day 19 because it was a previous file I used. And currently, I'm working on day 20. So for you to correct this, for the first time you're running, you can always right-click and run the day 20 so that it can update it for you here. Pretty much cool. So right now, see what our for loop is doing. The for loop is printing all the way from 1 to 10. And this is really very cool in the event where we want to do some things until the user gets it right or until our expectations are met. Now that you really have the understanding, how about we combine the while loop with the idea we have so far with our collections? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to comment this out. let's write something more. This time around, we can just say using while loop with a collection. Okay, so basically what we are going to do here is let's declare our variable. So we can just call this beverages. Then in our beverages, we can have water, we can have juice, we can have soda. I think I am working outside the scope. This has to be a string. The next one can be soda. Then we can have tea. We can have coffee. Let's just move this to the side a bit. Then I think we are good. So now that we have our list, okay, what if we want to print this list out like one after the other? Remember what we were doing then was we have to do prints, like write almost like 5 prints or write the huge amount of the number of prints. How about we have almost 20 of them, 30 of them? Does that mean that we have to write the line of code repeatedly? Nah, we can use the while loop to do that. Now remember, we need to just declare a variable, which is going to be our counter. So we can say, if you like, you can call it index. This can be any variable name. You can give it 0. Okay, now let's run our while loop. You can say while index is, you can say when it's less than the total number of this our list item. Remember, false to get the total number, we use the len function. Then inside the len function, you can just call the list. So we're just going to say beverages. Now once we have that, let's declare what should run. So now let's print our beverages. Now to print our beverages, all we need to do right now is to call this beverages. Remember, when we did this first one, we're getting 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10. So that means that we can dynamically use our index by just placing whatever the index is. We use it to target the beverages. So let me show you what I mean. So we can just say beverages, then our angle bracket, and reference this index inside. Okay, remember, we need to always increase so that our loop doesn't run continuously. So we can just say index plus equals to 1. Okay, now if we run it, if everything works fine, then we should have all our beverages printed out fine. So I'm just going to run it. Let's see what we get. So you can see we have water, which is the first one, juice, soda, tea, and coffee, just with these simple lines of code. If you have multiple number of this, let's say for instance, we just even go ahead and add more to the number. So let's say we just added more. Let's try to run it again and see what we get. You can see with the same line of code, you're able to perform the same task and get your printout just on the go. So we use while loop oftentimes to perform multiple tasks without us duplicating code and making our program clean. Okay, I'm just going to undo this. Let's restore it back to what it was. Cool. Do you also know that it is possible to run a conditional statement even while the loop is running? Let's see how that works. I'm just going to comment this out, and I'm going to write another comment. So we can say running conditional statement and break. Now the break here is you can actually ask the loop to break at any point. So if a condition is true, just break the loop. I don't want you to run it anymore, regardless of any amount that it should run. Now let's see how this works. I'm just going to copy this. We still need our beverages. Okay. Then let's declare our index. Our index can be 0. Then let's run our while loop. In fact, we can just copy this as well. Right. Let's copy this as well. Okay. But one thing we can do, okay, for our loop to also not run infinitely, we need to copy this as well. Okay, now let's run a conditional statement to check if whatever value we have is equals to soda, right? So we can say if beverages index is equals to soda. If it's equals to soda, then print we found soda. I can just print we found soda. Then we want to break the program, so we're good. So you can use the break statement. Now the break statement is just going to go ahead and break the code regardless of what we've printed. Now let's run it. Something isn't right. Let's see what we get. So he's saying that soda list is out of range. What could be the issue? Let's try to debug. Okay, it's out of range because I wrongly spelled soda instead of soda. Let me update this as well. If I save it and run it, so you can see that the machine doesn't forgive. You have to pay attention to some of the things you write so that you would always not run into broken code. Now you can see it ran the first one, which is water. Of course, water isn't soda, so this condition is wrong. Now when it runs the next time, it saw juice. Of course, juice isn't the condition. Then it ran again, and it became soda. Soda is true, and because of that, it printed we found soda and the code break. In other words, it didn't print tea and coffee. So you can see how lucrative the break and conditional statements can do. There's so many things you can really do with them. But right now, how about we do some random number? Let's write some random number and let's see what we can do. We can ask the user actually to guess random number and we print it to the user. I'm going to actually comment this out just so that it's not asking us to, it's not doing so many things at the same time. So let's write our comments. Just say random number. So for us to do this, let's import random number. We can report random module, random, yes. Okay, so let's call our first number. Let's declare a variable, and let's call the random number random that we imported. Then let's get radiant. The radiant takes two value, which is what number you want to start from, then to what number. So we want to guess from 1 to 5. Okay, now let's call our guess. We want an input field, and the input field of course should be integer. You call the int function, then you call the input. So now let's write a message, which is going to be guess a random number from 1 to 5. So we can say guess a random number from 1 to 5. Let's do it like this, from 1 to 5. Okay, so now that we have these two variables, now we are asking user for their input, but automatically we are generating our own random number. So the computer is generating from 1 to 5. So what we want to do right now is run the program if the user guesses right, or run the program if the user guesses wrong. So we can see this, how it works. So we can say while the user's guess is not equals to the computer guess, we can print to them that you guessed wrong. We can tell them to try again. So we can keep running the loop until the user guesses the right number. Now let's see how that works. So while the guess, right, the user guess is not equals to, so you can see not equals to, the exclamation plus your assignment operator gives you not equals to num. So if user guess is not equals to the number that the system is guessing, then let's keep running this very loop. So which means we need to keep asking the user to guess. Let's just duplicate this one. So we can call it, now we can tell the user that they guessed wrong, right? So we can just say wrong guess, right? Then we can ask them to try again. Try again. You can even put this in brackets, 1 to 5. So when the program is running for the first time, okay, we are saying if this isn't correct, if my guess is not equals to this, just tell the user to give another input, okay, and still store it in the same guess variable. Now, if the user guesses right, of course, let's move to the next line. You can see right now that I'm stepping outside the loop. By starting a new line, I'm stepping outside the loop, because if I write my print function inside like this, then Python won't print it because it's inside the loop, even when the user guesses right. So I'm just gonna go ahead and print. I can just say yes. This has to be a string. I can just say yes. You can say you guess correctly. Okay, now let's run it. If everything works fine, the way we explained, it should run that way. Let's run it and see. So it's asking us to guess a random number from 1 to 5. So let's say I guess 10. It's already telling me that wrong guess. Try again. Okay, so let's say I guess 1. Of course, I guess wrongly. Oh, I guess right. Pretty much. This is really cool. So now it is also possible that you print out the computer guess, because if you're telling me I guess maybe 1 wrongly, I want to know what the computer guess. So you could do that too inside the while loop. So we can just say under that we can declare a print function and just say the computer initially guessed, it should be double S, guess. I think we should just move this to the top. Let's see if we can be right. I will just have my comma here. And of course, if everything works fine, we should be able to have, I think something isn't right with the spelling there. Let's try to amend that. Yes. Okay. Now, if we run it, we should be able to see our previous guess. Let's run it and see what we get. So let's say around 2. Yeah, so the computer initially guessed 4. Let me see if I do 4, if I'm going to be correct. I just want to be able to make sure that we are not even spying on ourselves. Okay, let me see 4. Now, this program isn't running fine because it's actually printing out the answer, so we can get rid of this line. Now I'm giving you this challenge. Why not just go ahead and see a way that you can print the previous guess number, print it to the user, and make them see that, hey, this is computer guess and this is your guess. So try it out and see. Let me know in the comment section if you're able to get it right. I'm going to delete this because this is actually printing to the user the right question. So let's run it again, and he said I guess wrongly. Let's run it again. Oh, I got it right this time around, pretty much. So just check the description for the practice that you have and try it out. Try to see if it's something you can fix. I know it's something you can do. It is practice that makes all of this thing sync right. And that's how we wrap it up on this one. If you like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all our social media handles so that you can be notified every time we release a new tip. Until next time, I'll see you in the next one.